Hey everyone, I hope everybody is doing well today. And you guys have had a good week. You're staying healthy, staying peaceful. Um, Today we'll talk about in this video lecture the Trump and Kim Jong Un meetings, which was one of the more controversial parts of Trump's foreign policy. So, and this has to do with denuclearization, right? So the Trump administration has taken a really different approach in dealing with North Korea, right? So North Korea has long frustrated U.S. presidents as Kim Jong Un, the dictator of North Korea, a very brutal, I should point out, dictator. And you guys all probably have heard about him. You know, kills his own dissidents, locks up journalists. Anyone who criticizes him is sent to forced labor camps for 15 years. They usually end up starving to death within a year or two. It's pretty brutal, right? So the guy is not a humanitarian at all, right? Really doesn't care about his own people's well-being. So this guy, him and his father, right, who's now, I believe, deceased, they've both been trying to turn North Korea into a strong nuclear power to counteract the power of South Korea, right? So the two parts used to be one, they were united. And after the Korean War, there was a division. You guys probably heard about this, the 30th parallel that was set up. Long story short, South Korea has always been very friendly to U.S. and Western European interests. They're more kind of capitalist, free market. And then, of course, North Korea is a classic communist regime, right? So North Korea has been trying to get nuclear weapons, and they have nuclear capabilities now. They don't necessarily have the delivery systems, but they have capabilities. Somewhere around 8 or 9 nukes they have, right? So, most presidents have dealt with North Korea's leadership through sanctions, which is basically just like, refusing to trade with them, right? Which keeps key products from reaching their country, which increases the amount of poverty and economic alienation their people are facing. Basically, their people are suffering because of our sanctions to a large degree. But the idea is that if conditions get bad enough in North Korea, the people may rebel against their leader, right? That's what the U.S. has hoped for a long time, and that hasn't happened, right? Now, Donald Trump tried something totally different that no president has done. He's actually directly sought to meet in a series of summits with Kim Jong-un. They've met in Singapore, they've met in Vietnam, and they've met most recently last year in North Korea. Donald Trump became the first U.S. president ever to step foot in North Korea, right? So they've met together and in a series of talks, and Trump is trying to get Kim Jong obviously to dismantle his entire weapons program. And Kim Jong is trying to get Trump and the United States to end all their economic sanctions. Again, barriers to trade, to end all that. Now, it's interesting. The two have actually become really good friends, apparently, according to reports. Trump says he was quoted as saying, "Me and Kim Jong are in love, and that we're great friends." Trump has said on more than 5 occasions how much he admires Kim Jong. He says that Kim Jong runs his country very effectively and well. And Kim Jong on his end has said that he really admires Donald Trump. He loves the way that Trump runs the United States. And he says that, he would like to continue to develop his relationship with him because he really admires him. So the two have had like a very budding friendship by all accounts. And Trump, for his part, has also invited Kim Jong for another future summit meeting to come to the United States. So Kim Jong may be, has never stepped foot in the U.S. That might happen, right? So there's two ways to look at this, right? One is to say in the positive. We'll start with the positive. Many say that this is like unprecedented. That if any other time, we've never had such a good chance to disarm North Korea from nuclear weapons, and that this is like a really bold move by Donald Trump to reach directly out to North Korea. So instead of like alienating them and turning him into something of a pyra, we're bringing him into the international fold and making him more legitimate. And that may put pressure on him to start acting in accord with international law. So some say this is a very like bold, kind of like classic Trump move, a little bit unorthodox, but that it might actually really work to bring him into the fold and reach directly out to him. Now, of course, the critique of all this, right, is that, we look like that we're not look like. To the perception of the world, it would appear that Donald Trump is looking the other way as he's entertaining a monstrous dictator, right? So many, by the way, I have to point this out. The United States is not just Trump. The United States has a really long history of catering to dictators, right? Just to name a few, we overthrew a democratically elected government in Chile in 1973 and installed a dictator that we were friends with named Augusto Pinochet. We overthrew democratically elected government in Guatemala in the 1950s, installed a dictator. We got rid of a democratically elected leader in Iran in the late 70s, installed a dictator. In Vietnam, we supported, the South Vietnamese dictators during that whole affair. The United States, you guys can Google it online, type in Donald Rumsfeld shakes hands with Saddam Hussein. The United States we were like, loved Saddam Hussein when he was the Iraq dictator until he decided to try to invade Saudi Arabia for oil, right? That's when we turned on him. So the United States has a long, not to mention we support Saudi Arabia and their whole royal family, which is just a murderous dictatorship, right? So the United States has a really long history under both Democrats and Republicans of supporting monstrous dictatorships, right? Usually we support those dictators because they give our corporations, favorable status, right? So that's why we usually do it. Or we support dictators because they promise to do away with the enemies of American capitalism, right? So, in a nutshell, many people say Trump meeting with Kim Jong sends kind of the wrong message that the United States hasn't really changed, that we're, claiming to support democracy, but actually behind the scenes, we have no problems if your country's run as a dictatorship, so long as you kind of bend to the will of the United States government, right? So that's, that's been the critique, that Donald Trump looks like he's cozying up to this very ruthless dictator. And it's a little bit shocking that the two leaders have expressed admiration for each other. That should all give us a little bit of, pause for like, is this really a good idea to be kind of openly admiring a guy who is one of the more murderous leaders in the world, right? So, but again, the positive, people say, hey, no president has ever stepped foot in North Korea, that, hey, maybe this is the tactic that needs to be done, a very bold approach, meeting with this guy, with Kim Jong, bringing him into the international fold. Maybe this is what needs to happen to denuclearize, right? So what do you guys think? What seems to be the best policy? Should we kind of stay away from meeting with dictators and just kind of like keep them on the outside and keep up economic sanctions? What do y'all think is right in the situation? So I hope you guys are well, and I'll get you reading links up on Saturday for our next section. So much peace to everybody. Be well.